So let's see how to do this. It says that we are going to plug in different numbers one at a time for x. So we do that. When we plug in -1, it looks like this. Instead of -10x minus 2, it becomes -10 times -1 minus 2. -1 takes the place of the x. And simplifying, we get 8. For the second one, now we plug in 0 for x. And upon simplifying, we get -2. For the next one, we plug in 1 for x. And we get -12. And lastly, we plug in 5 for x. And we get -52. Incidentally, this equation has a graph associated with it. And one way of looking at what we just did is that we found 4 different points that are on the graph of that equation. First point would be -1, 8. It's important to think about them this way. The second one would be 0, -2. The next would be 1, -12. And the last is 5, -52. So if we were to graph these points, they would be points on the graph of this line. On this problem, we are given an equation, and we are to determine which of these points are on the graph of this equation, or in other words, which of those points is a solution for the equation. Let's try out the first one, -1, 3. The x-coordinate is -1, and the y-coordinate is 3. Therefore, I will replace x with -1 and y with 3 and see if they really are equal. If they are, then the answer will be yes, it is a solution. Simplifying, I get 2 = 2, so everything checks out. And the answer is yes, it is a solution. Let's try the next one. This time I'll plug 2 in for x and -4 in for y. And maybe they're equal and maybe they're not. Upon simplifying, I get 2 = 2 again, and so they definitely are equal. Therefore, 2 - 4 is a solution to the equation. Let's try the next one. I replace x with 5 and y with 2, and maybe they're equal. Upon simplifying, I get 41 = 2, which is only true in government accounting, but not in the real world. So, not a solution. And the last one, we'll replace x with 0 and y with -8. And upon simplifying, we get -24 equals 2, which is not true, and therefore that is not a solution. This time we will come up with our own solution to the equation. To do that, we pick any number we want for x. I'll pick x equals 3. So replacing x with 3, what does y have to be? So that everything works out and my solution really is a solution to the equation. Simplifying, I might subtract 6 from both sides. And then dividing by -1, I get y equals 0. Therefore, the point 3, 0 is a solution to the equation. Let's find another solution to the equation. How about when x is 7? So I'll replace x with 7. Simplify. Subtract 14. And divide by -1. And y is 8. Therefore, the point 7, 8 is a solution to this equation. Or in other words, if I were to graph this line, this point would be on the line. Now we will actually graph the line. To graph a linear equation, it is much easier if y is isolated. Or in other words, if y is by itself in the equation, which it is in this case. So when that's the case, the number that is being multiplied by x, we call that the slope. Okay, and we'll get to that more on the next topic in just a few moments. But for this one, let's just find some points that are on the line, just like we did on the last topic. So if we pick x equals 0, then we would have 2/3 times 0 is 0. So the point 0, 0 is on the graph. What if we pick x equals 3? Then we plug 3 in for x. The 3's cancel, and we get 2. So that tells us when x is 3, y is 2. And if you get a fractional answer here for your y value, that's totally fine. Now that I have 2 points, I can play dot to dot and draw the line. That's all I do. This time, there will be a number added on to the x or subtracted from the x. Let's see how that works. One way to handle this would be just like we did on the last topic. So I could plug in some x values like 0, and 1, and then I can plot those 2 points 0, 5. And 1, 4. And then I can play dot to dot, draw the line, and I'm done. However, another way of doing this that will also be of value to you in your algebra classes is to understand a little more what's going on inside this equation. First of all, this equation can be rewritten as -1 times x plus 5. Now, whatever number is being multiplied by x, that's called slope. That tells you the steepness of the graph. The other number that's being added on, that's called y-intercept. That tells you where the line will hit or intercept the y-axis. The y-intercept is 5. Therefore, the line should hit the y-axis at 5, which it does. The slope is negative. Therefore, as we read the graph from left to right, it should be going down, which it does. And that is the basic idea right there.